Welcome to Let's Talk About the Deep Stuff. I'm your host, Sean Kneese. On this show, we have off the cuff and candid conversations about the big topics in the world. Today, we're embarking on a journey into the ethereal world of spirits and ghosts, a topic that has captivated the human imagination for centuries. The allure of spirits in the afterlife beckons us to contemplate the mysteries of existence beyond the tangible realm. Throughout history, tales of ghostly encounters and unexplained phenomena have both intrigued and unsettled us. Whether rooted in folklore, personal experiences, or cultural beliefs, the idea of spirits lingering among us evokes a profound sense of wonder and curiosity. Joining me to explore this topic is Pamela Kramer, a clairvoyant medium who has insights into the spiritual realm, and she's going to shed light on the shadows of the unknown. So, thanks for coming on. I think that was a entertaining intro I gave. So,
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be back with you and have this discussion.
yeah. I guess talk about your background and your own experience with mediumship and like how you became familiar with ghosts and spirits.
Okay, I mean, I guess my whole thing that I do is besides the clairvoyant mediumship, I'd have to say that I'm an energetic body healer, clairvoyant medium, if you want to do the whole title, because it's just a medium. I would say that they mainly deal with uh, information coming from the dead. As a healer and clairvoyant medium, information that comes through is not only from those that have gone, passed on, but they're also information from spirit guides, angels, just upper dimensional, higher dimensional beings. So I never know what's going to come through. And being a clairvoyant, which means that I have sight, I get visions, even though I'm clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant. Clairvoyance is my main thing that I work with a lot, and so it's a very interesting journey.
So wait, clairvoyant, like you could pick up on other people's thoughts, and can you pick up on the future too, or what?
Well, I mean, as a clairvoyant, I get visions, so I see things. So when I'm working, I see things. I and so it could be many different. At times the visions are a vision, then an overlay or an overlay, depends on who I'm working with, and especially if I'm working with someone on the healing end of it, I will often get visions that will be overlaid, and it is really my job to discern what those messages mean or what those visions mean. And early on in my practice, or when I was starting to really become aware of it and did not have any control over it, I would get vision after vision after vision, but not. It was so fast that I couldn't maintain it. So now, when I get a vision, it usually will stay with me for quite some time until I articulate what it is that I'm seeing. So it has many things happen with it. There's no like a book that says now this is going to happen, now that's going to happen. It happens as it happens, and you have to go with the flow. As a clairvoyant medium healer, I want to. My goal is to discern. It's the best of my ability at the highest vibration of what am I seeing? What is the message for the sitter for me to convey to them?
So do you choose like when you see these? Can you see like insight into a person by choice, or does it come like instinctively, or does it come at times that you wouldn't expect it, or is it something you can kind of tap into?
Well, I like to put boundaries down on it. I mean, if I'm sitting with somebody and having a general conversation and I haven't put that wall up, there might be information coming through, but I don't go around reading people. It's just, first of all, it's just too intrusive, not only to them, but also for me. So I when I'm doing a session, getting ready to do a session, then I work with spirit guides and guardian angels. I work with my spirit guides and guardian angels. I work with their spirit guides and guardian angels, and I ask that all information comes through for the highest good of the sitter that is coming to see me for a reading. And you mentioned something before. you were talking about mind reading kind of stuff. Well, that's more telepathy. And yes, as a child, I had, my telepathy was pretty spot on. But because I was surrounded by adults who couldn't see or hear what I could see and hear, it was squished a lot or squelched a lot. So, or it's your imagination and whatnot. But as I got older, I realized it was not my imagination, and so, but yes, I have telepathy. I think a lot of people have telepathy, but they don't articulate it like that. I mean, with your animals, you tend to have telepathy. When I had my dogs, I knew exactly what they were thinking. They could be sitting there just looking at me with nothing, no emotion, and I would say, "All right, I know you have to go out," or "Yes, I understand. I'm busy right now, but I'll make time for you." And so there is that, that mind melding, if you will, when you're using your telepathy abilities.
And how did so like did spirit, because I know you also have experience with spirits, and you mentioned guardian angels too. Like how did you start becoming familiar with spirits and like other entities that you couldn't see in the physical realm, and what are your views about like what they are and
Oh my
everything?
gosh. Well, it's I spent most of my life running away from it, and it was spirit that kept on after me, and it would appear in just all kinds of interesting places. I could be at a restaurant, and all of a sudden my hands would start to vibrate, and I knew instinctively where in the body that the individual that was maybe the waiter or waitress, where the pain was. I could see that. So I look at the energetic body and I can see that. And I didn't have any boundaries back then. And through my work in the entertainment field, it started coming out more and more and more. And then later on, I want to say about 20 years ago, I couldn't deny it any longer. I was getting messages after messages, and I couldn't push it aside. So it was when I took an unexpected trip to Sedona, Arizona, which I had no plans of doing. And all of a sudden, I found myself there, and I was in the desert. My last night there, looking around for a place to sit, meditate, not on a rattlesnake. And I was standing there looking, and there was nobody around. It was in the middle of the workday, and I heard this voice about an arm's length off my left shoulder that said, "We will heal you so that you may heal others." And it was just one of those surreal moments of like, hello? And from that point on, I really made a commitment to myself. And I said, okay, spirit, okay, God, the higher power, if this is what you want me to do, please guide me. And that's really when a lot of magical things started happening more and more and more. I mean, I always got visions through my life. I remember walking into my bedroom and seeing 7 crosses of Jesus and going, okay. And I walk out of the room, so these things would happen. They would pop up, or I would be in the middle of a private session with an acting student, and a loved one would come through. That was, again, early on. But once I committed, the magic really started to happen. And I was able to just kind of take my mind and put it aside and allow the information to come through. So I really am the conduit for the information. I'm, not the controller of it. I have no control over it. So as far as what the discussion is today about spirits, and I've lost pretty much my whole entire family. So they're pretty much all over there on the other side. And the first person that I lost that was really, really dear to me in my immediate family was my brother. He committed suicide in 1980. And my brother and I had a very tight, close spiritual connection our entire life. And so when he passed over, it was really devastating. And over the years, things would happen. Either a lot of times over the years, I would get what they call twilight visitation. And for those of your listeners who don't know what twilight visitation is, it's not a dream. There's that time period. Usually, it's like early in the morning before you wake up. It's a time period between wake and sleep, and that's when loved ones' spirits will come and visit you. And how do you know the difference between the two? You know the difference because one is so real that you can't deny it. And it is, you can hear, you can feel, the messages are very, very clear. And for me, I would wake up and I, was always emotional about it because I was looking and looking for my brother, and there he was. And then all of a sudden, he'd say, "Oh, listen, I'll be right back. I have to go get something in the other room." I go, "No!"
Yeah.
So, and then he would be gone. So, and this has happened. I haven't seen him of late, but he would pop up in various places. When my mother passed away, he and my brother and my mother were always in the back seat, on and off for the first year, just talking and laughing. I would see them in the rearview mirror, and just getting connected again. And one time I was driving down the highway, and my brother's spirit went right through my solar plexus, and it was almost like that. And I just knew it was him. It was his way of letting me know, although it shouldn't have been on the highway, but listen, they come when they come. And he let me know that he was still around. And that was really important. So, I mean, those things happen in different ways. You'll all of a sudden you'll be out there, with some friends, and some stranger will come up to you. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to this, that you'll be out somewhere with a friend, and a stranger will say something, and you kind of go, "Wow, that's exact same saying my grandmother says," or my mom used to say.
Sort of talking to you through other people, like it's
Yeah,
like is
yeah.
that relate to like our minds being connected or something like that, you think? Or what do
Well,
you think?
it's not. It's just the message from a loved one using somebody to get that message through. And the person who the message is coming through, they usually don't know it's coming through. It's not. It's like they just say it and then they're gone. And you just know in your gut that, oh, that was a message from my mother. Because no one else says that I know of would say it like that. So those are many ways that spirits come through. For me, uh, it was early in the morning. I want to say about 15 years ago, and I woke up and I smelled this perfume, and it was just so, like, literally permeating in my face. And it was Oscar de la Renta, which would happen to be my mother's favorite perfume at the time. And I just woke up, and it was her way of letting me know that she was around me. And it's very comforting, actually. It's not scary at all when you get that.
Hmm.
Spirits will also come in many ways, not just with loved ones. In my old apartment, I had lived there for many, many years. And one day I'm walking in the hallway and I smell cigar. Well, I don't smoke, and
Hmm.
I don't know anybody who smokes cigar. And it was a spirit just happening to go through the apartment and just say, "What's going on?" The apartment was a pre-war building. So sometimes it's kind of go through. And spirits will also manipulate electricity, and that happened often, not only in my apartment in New Jersey, but also up in my cottage up in the Catskill Mountains, where my mother manipulated the electricity a lot. I don't, and sometimes things would happen, like glass and stuff, would break, and I'd come in, and the glass would, instead of being shattered everywhere like it should be, it was nicely placed on the side of the bathroom mat. So there's so many things that happen. For me, I was very blessed when my father passed away. I was there by his bedside, and I got to see him transition energetically,
Hmm.
and which was like almost like Star Trek, like about 6 inches, 5 inches up was white light and surrounded his entire body, and like looked like Star Trek, like beam me up. And I was very blessed to be there to see him as he was ready to be transitioned. So there's so many things from
Yeah.
orbs, from actually seeing spirits. There's please ask whatever questions.
Yeah, yeah, and I saw and you've seen full figures before, because like I saw like my great grandmother, and when I was a little kid, but in our old house, like but she didn't live there or anything. It was before we knew who she was. Like, but then later on, when my mother was like exploring her ancestors, I saw a picture of her, and then I was like, oh, that's the person I saw when I was a kid. But like I actually saw like the full figure and like the face and everything. It was a
Well, sometimes they just show up because they want to check in on you. I mean, our loved ones usually will be around. They have other things to do on the other side, but they do check in with us. They do keep in touch and see how we're doing in our lives. Even like I said, even my brother, he's been gone now for like 30 years. And every once in a while, I'll get that twilight visit and I just hold on to it dearly, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, that I guess that ties into because I kind of do think like ancestors are with this. I know there's I know it's like Shinto or like certain cultures like they worship the ancestors too, but I guess maybe that's like where some of that comes from, like that whole idea.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's not part of my culture, but I'm open to receive all. I mean, in my world, anything can happen from messages from angels, from the higher interdimensional beings to God speaking through me at the deathbed of a client. There's just anything can happen. And even seeing Christ or Mother Mary and the ascending masters, for me, I'm open to receive the information for the highest good of the individual that comes to see me. I don't have a rule going, you can't come. No, they come. They come because it's necessary. They come for the individual that is in front of me, that is seeking healing. And make no mistake, clairvoyant mediumship is all healing work. People are seeking messages all the time. They want to know that their loved ones are okay. They want to know that they're okay. It's a continuous thing. And especially with people who have lost so many people in the past handful of years. Yes, when your loved one crosses over, they go through a life review, but they're whole again. They were maimed in this lifetime or hurt in this lifetime. They are whole again, period. And sometimes you may see them when they're younger or when they are older. They come to you in many ways. There is no exact anything in the spirit world. They have something to share with you. They'll find a way to share it with you. Uh, Especially the twilight visitations. I do cherish those a lot.
So, do you think that's ghosts like because I know there's also the idea that ghosts people become ghosts because they have some kind of unfinished business, or that sometimes like if a tragic event happens, like certain places, like just there's energies left behind. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily like they're it's a conscious spirit or being. It's just some kind of energy that was left behind. Sometimes is there too.
Well, there's a lot. Yeah, absolutely. There's many reasons why you'll have hauntings, or sometimes it's not even spirits. It's just as you were saying, it is the energy left behind from maybe a ritual that was happening in that room. So it is a residual reverb of something that happened in that room and plays over and over and over again, like in a loop. You'll see that happen over and over again. You've seen this probably in these haunted TV shows where, in room, whatever it is, so and so hung themselves. And, you go in there, the person's sleeping in there, and they'll see a woman writing a letter and then getting up on a chair and putting a noose up and hanging herself. That's a residual, impression. It's imprinted in that room. So it's not like there are people haunting it. It's just the energy of what happened in that room that is retained within those four walls. So that's
So I guess
one.
when you say there's a difference between spirits and just like energies, like there's just emotion energies that you put out there, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Your emotions, your energy will reverb in many ways. Now, also you have people that are haunted, that are haunting a place. It could be, well, I'll give you an example. When I work with somebody who is terminal, and there was one client who had so much anger in her, and she only had 2 weeks to live. It was interesting because Spirit gave me a client that didn't look like they were dying, and so it was a little confusing for me because you have this impression of when people are dying they look a certain way, but she didn't have any kind of outside look to her. But when we were speaking, she was spewing a lot of venom, And I said to her that you can't take that with you. If you don't resolve it, then what happens is you take that with you, and it's a very heavy lower vibration. So fortunately, she was able to rectify that with her son that she was angry at before she passed on, which I was happy to hear. You don't want things to hold you back. Or if someone, God forbid, gets hit by a car and doesn't know they're dead, they could be trapped in that on earthbound in that particular area. So there's so many reasons that things happen. I mean, I'm not a ghost hunter. I don't go into a place knowing that there's a ghost there. Having said that, I was attacked in New Hope, Pennsylvania. I went there for a Labor Day weekend with my dog many years ago, and I didn't know that the B&B that I was at was on the ghost tour. Nor did I know that my room is where the husband and wife had passed away. Having said that, I was woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning with this large male entity holding me down, and I would hear this wom 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 wom, and then finally let me go, and then I fell back to sleep. And then about an hour later, I feel a smaller energy, a female energy, and again the wom 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 wom, electricity. And the next morning is when I inquired, and they said, "Oh yeah, your room is the most haunted in the building." And I go, "Great." So I don't, I don't go ghost hunting. I'm not a person who's going to chase them. I also don't want them coming home with me. People leave they can leave a place at night, and the spirit can attach themselves to the individual and bring them home. And that's the last thing I want. I don't, especially as a healer, I don't want any of that stuff around me. That's
Because
so
I
I,
guess you never know what you're bringing in. Would you say there's good and bad spirits, or?
yeah, there are good spirits and bad spirits. I mean, I that was the only time I encountered, and I don't think that they were bad spirits when I say it attacked me. I feel that they were trying to get my attention, and they got my attention. They didn't hurt me, but when I say they held me down, like I could feel my on my shoulders, in the impression on of the hands on my shoulders. And I mean, obviously, I didn't run away from the room and leave that night, so I wasn't scared. I was actually more annoyed that I was being touched, and so.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah,
like it wasn't letting you sleep, or like it was about. Like,
yeah, and it was just kind of weird. I was hearing steps outside my door, up and down, up and down, up and down all night long the next night. And I said to the innkeeper, "Well, you had a lot of people here last night." And she said, "No, we didn't have anybody here. You and your dog are the only people left." I go, "Okay." So, like I said, I'm not running. I mean, I've been on ghost tours in Louisiana. I thought that was kind of cool, but like I said, I'm not looking to go hunting for ghosts. That's not my thing. I mean, I see orbs all the time, and that's kind of fun. I see them in my house too. As a matter of fact, when I'm doing Zoom, I often see orbs in other people's screens. I go, "Oh, that's an orb. That's very interesting." But orbs are really kind of cool. There are so many different types of orbs. A dear friend of mine took a picture of her son when he was rock climbing. He was a kid. It was indoor rock climbing. And when the photographs were developed, these orbs that were circular, and then they had almost like they had lines going through it, and they were like lifting this child up, and there were like dozens of them holding this child up as he was climbing the wall. I had never seen orbs like that before. And then in some orbs, I have an amazing photograph that I found through a friend of mine. I was looking at his photos when his partner passed away a handful of years ago. And in this photograph, right in front of his girlfriend, is an orb that's huge. And I look closer. In this orb is a Native American. And I can see his eyes. I can see the long hair. I could
well,
see the mustache. It was so detailed. It was amazing.
and why do you think? Because I noticed like with a lot of ghost pictures that it's usually like far in the background, or it's kind of like blurry. It's kind of like hard to see it first? Why do you think it's hard to like get like a clear picture?
The orbs you're talking about?
Well, like because like usually when you see a ghost photo, usually it's like they have to kind of circle it and find it, and it's in the background. Or like it's very rare you see like a clear picture of
Okay,
a ghost.
well, first of all, it's spirits are in a higher vibration. So, in order for, it's amazing that we see them at all because they are in a really high vibration, and we're in the lower vibration. Some people are a lot even more lower than most. So you have to think about it. You have to raise your vibration to almost match their vibration to see them. So if you're not getting a clear picture, chances are you're not in the same frequency is the best way to put it for to really see them. I mean, some people see them solid form. Again, most people are not cognizant that they're going to their vibrations are higher or lower. I'm just explaining to you that
Yeah.
spirits are on a higher vibration, so therefore it's amazing we even see them. But since 2009, the wall between the spirit world and the physical world has started to crumble. So more people now than ever before are starting to see or experience more paranormal experiences. So it's quite interesting.
And
Why does
why do
that?
you think that happened to and like is that like a theory someone said or the 2009 or where does that come from the
Well, I'm telling you from my experience, it's not, and I've read since that other psychic mediums have experienced the same, and have expressed the same information. For me, I could see it, and the information and the world was changing so drastically between 2009 and 2012. Oh, 2009, 2012, and 2016. These were significant blocks of time where the energies were shifting so fast. And I know it's kind of weird what I'm going to say next, but I believe if you pondered it for a moment, you may feel like it would resonate with you. For example, in 2009, everything started to speed up so fast. You went from 24-hour days to 18-hour days. What do I mean by that? Then what I'm saying to you is that yes, on a man-made level, we still have the clock, we still have 24-hour days. But what happened is everything is being sped up. There's so much shifting going on. So now what used to be a 24-hour day is now an 18-hour day. And then it shifted again in 2016. So we are on 16-hour days. What does that mean? Well, if you ponder it, you'll realize how much more can you get done that you used to. You used to be able to get so much more done. And now you could do one or two things and you kind of go, where did the day go? So it's that movement of energy. It's accelerated, and it's accelerated on an environmental space. I mean, it's how it's being perceived. It's a pulling that's moving faster and faster. So it's quite interesting.
so is
So
that would you say it's good or bad or is it just is that there's more
I think it
connections?
just is. I feel it just is. I mean, for me, it doesn't change my life. I mean, it just makes my life go faster to the next birthday, the next next wrinkle, the next this. But all kidding aside, it doesn't. It's things are changing, but I do believe in also 2009. I was sitting up in the Catskill Mountains in my cottage, and I heard this loud crash, and I heard like shale pieces like being rubbed together. And it was so loud that I looked outside to see where the sound was coming from. And I realized it was coming from the center of the room that I was in. And then with that, the message came through, oh, how we do business is going to change drastically. It is going to be really uncomfortable for a long time, but in the long run, it's going to be better for all. Never realizing that we are in the throes of it right now, because you never know when that message comes through, and it's you don't know what that is. I usually when I get a message, it's like not that profound, but it was really profound. And I had read an article where another psychic medium was echoing the exact message that I had received from spirit. So it's quite interesting. And the experiences, people are having more experiences like in interacting with uh, space, the intergalactic. You hear a lot about the intergalactic beings, and there's just so much more. Everything is so much more expansive, and the quantum physics and just going through the matrix, and you're hearing a lot of these things that are going on. So so you go back to spirits, well, they're all interconnected, except people think, well, a spirit can only be here, it can't be somewhere else. Well, I have news for you. Even though I'm sitting here with you, your loved one could be over at your mom's house, visiting her, and then coming back and visiting you. It doesn't, there is no space and time because you don't have the physical body. You're not held, the physical body is really hard. It's very dense. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And sometimes that human experience is really, really dense and tough. So,
Do you think that sometimes there could be spirits that never had bodies and have always been spirits, or like are all spirits ghosts or people that once lived, or is there sometimes spirits that they're just entities that have always lived in the spirit world?
uh, okay, there are many spirits or guides that have never incarnated into a physical body, and they are consciousness. They are spirits. They they are here, like going back into the intergalactic and the different dimensions, the fifth dimension all the way up to the ninth and so on, is information that is so vitally important for the survival of mankind, for all living creatures, in not only on this earthly plane but also in the other dimensions. Then there are also people that have passed on that are now have become guides that don't come back into incarnation rather. And so then there's those who are reborn. They talk about if you're messing up this lifetime and you haven't learned your life lessons, you'll be back to do it again and again and again. So everyone talks in the spiritual community about Earth being school. This is Earth school. When you come back here, you have your sacred your sacred contracts, and you've made before you came here, of things that you want to learn and discover. And it could be anything. One may say, well, why did so and so come in? Was died at birth. They go, well, that is something that soul has decided that I want to experience that. Or it could also be the parent. It's there's so many reasons why things happen to people, but it's not a punishment. I feel that that's one big thing that people talk about, that, oh, why did God punish me? Well, it's not. It's, in my life, I say, what is the lesson? Not what is the punishment, but what is the lesson in this? So it is, when you reframe it, you really start to change your perspective about a lot of things, in a good way, a very good way.
Yeah, and I always kind of thought that maybe like each deity could be true for like they could be real on some level. Like if someone prays to a Hindu god, they can get results from that because like that there is like an energy that like that is that Hindu deity, or somebody is a Christian and they pray, like there's the energy to that. Like I almost feel like it's all kind of real on some levels. Always like that's always been kind of like my view. Like I don't know. I know that's a little
God,
different. Yeah. God,
God, and
yeah, I think
Hindu
like God
God.
could like take different forms depending on like what you believe, maybe.
Yes, what you believe, but also what you need. And it's very interesting. You get what you need, not necessarily what you think you want. Look, this is one of my favorite bowls. This is a Tibetan bowl, and to my understanding, it's a couple hundred years old, and I love it. I just absolutely love it, and I gravitate towards that. So there's quite a bit of the Indian culture that I love on the spiritual level. I love Ganesh, and which is the god of removing blocks and
Yeah.
bringing prosperity. I love that. And even though I'm born Jewish, I really, I guess that's a culture, that's our history. But I'm drawn towards a lot of Native American stuff. So I feel very blessed. I mean, I have an amazing medicine man guide who, when I saw him for the first time, it was amazing. The vision was so intense and so powerful. And, so you take which from pieces of different things. Now, I was, this is probably it's kind of interesting because it shocked me too. Had shampoo in my hair, and I turned around and I see Mother Mary in the shower. And
Well,
she looked at me, and I looked at her, and she rushed right into my body.
yeah,
And
I've had weird experiences like that too, actually. Like, and depending on like, because I've been to like different kinds of religious facilities, and like I've had experiences with that deity, like or with like even like Jesus. Like I had like a vision of like a cross kind of thing, and then like I went to a Hindu temple once, and like I felt like the energies of the Hindu deity. Like I've had different experiences like that too. So
but it's amazing to open yourself up because this is not your only lifetime. You've had many lifetimes, and when you explore that, I mean, if you've never explored past life regression, I strongly recommend it. And it worked for me. I used it and have used it over the years. Actually, I became certified clinical hypnotherapist because I wanted to do that with people. I haven't put on my shingle yet, but it's so powerful to dive deep and learn so much more. There's so much more to learn, and to cut yourself off and just say, okay, there's only this or there's only that. I mean, like I said, from the different deities to Mother Mary to the ascending masters. The ascending masters could be many. There are many different beings that have incarnated. I mean, I love Padre Pio. I mean, Padre Pio healed my hand. I had fallen on a wood burning stove while healing a client. Her dog tripped me, got under my feet, and my hand went right onto the wood burning stove, and it was severe second degree burns. And as my hand is going onto the wood burning stove, I hear, "This is for your highest good," and I go, "Ooh." So a week later, I'm at this health fair, and my hand is all wrapped up. And this woman comes up to me, who later I realized that she was a psychic medium, and she said, "That's for your highest good." And so I'm talking about messages saying, okay, I heard that in my head. Now I'm
yeah.
hearing it from somebody out of nowhere. And they happened to have a card with Padre Pio with some of his cloth in it. And I said, may I hold that, please? So I rubbed it on my hand. I also did Reiki and all that stuff like that. But, so believing that there's so much more that we don't realize, we don't understand. There's so much magic in the world. And way back when we lived in Lemuria or Atlantis, for me it was Lemurian. We were able to heal. We were able to speak telepathically. We were able to do all the things that we as healers do now. But somewhere along the line, we forgot our God-given abilities. Are have been squelched or hidden away in a box somewhere. But we are healers, all of us. We can communicate. When you think about the extraterrestrials, how they do not open their mouths to speak, it's all telepathic. That's how we
Are you
work.
talking about like when people have encountered them, like when they've encountered UFOs? That's what they've said that that's how they communicate, extraterrestrials, or
Yes, yes. And for me, I've seen grays, in my cottage. And they communicate telepathically. I was never abducted.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm just saying that, they do communicate telepathically, as we did years ago. We were able to heal ourselves. We had crystals galore in our environment. We were able to do these things. And somewhere along the line, we forgot who we are. And so it becomes, people are still sleeping when it comes to that. They have an idea, they're waking up, and some people are not. They're just like very closed minded. No, we have to just do it this way. Well, there is no just this way.
So
We
you
have,
think we could send like thoughts to whoever? Like you think anybody has the ability to that? Like there's no limit. Like they could be anywhere in the world. You could send like a telepathic thought to someone. Or,
yeah. I mean, when you talk, when people pray for people, things change. It's known by sending out those healing prayers for people, healing thoughts. It helps to heal people.
yeah, and I've had experiences like something like sometimes I want like an apology or like understanding about something from someone, but then I would get like what I wanted that person to say like from somebody else. Like they would post it, or I don't know. I've had weird experiences like that. Like,
That's not weird.
yeah, like well, not weird, but it's like it shows like there's some kind of connectedness or whatever.
Yeah, well, even more so, people are reaching out and connecting, collectively connecting, especially during the last couple of years. There have been major groups connecting and having, prayers for world peace. Now, this is going to sound weird, but maybe not, as if everything I'm saying is normal to most people. In 1984, I became a Buddhist for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
2 weeks. And the reason why I became a Buddhist is not for religious purposes, because I'm very happy the way I am, in my personal life. It was to pray and to chant for world peace. And I thought, what an amazing reason to go through this process. So I went through the whole process and getting a gohonzon and doing the chanting, and it felt so good. It was a good cause, all of us, for mankind. So within 2 weeks, they started getting a little bit radical for me, and I just disengaged from it. But I really, it's always anything that you put out there that's good intention is a good thing. So that was in 1984.
Yeah, I think I've seen like things like on how like sometimes like there's been cities like where people did like a meditation circle where there was like a high crime rate and then the crime rate dropped like soon after they did it. I did like a
Yes,
meditation. Yeah.
yes. People, get these prayer circles going, and people all of a sudden, are reversed and they're healed. One of my actors, may he rest in peace, he was at 9/11 and a terrific guy, and he wound up getting a brain tumor and had problems in his lungs.
Hmm.
Uh, and it was just, really heartbreaking. But he was telling me a story that when he was in the hospital, he saw Mother Mary, and Mother Mary said he was going to be okay. He went into total remission. But he did something that you just never do. And I said, "Why did you do this? You have a wife and 3 children." But he said that he wanted to take on all the pain of the people that were on his floor. I said, "You don't do that." And so it came back, and the bottom line is that he is no longer with us. And I
Hmm.
know his intentions were good, but it didn't serve anybody to do that.
But
I
you
know.
think he did he do that like knowing what the price would be or what do you think?
Well, I think he was a little naive, to say it lightly, and unfortunately, he lost his life,
Hmm.
and it was just a really huge loss. I personally feel that by him having or being in remission and continuing on with his life would have served his highest good, not to mention the people that loved him. But he made a choice, and you don't do that. You don't take on all that. As a healer, I don't take all that stuff into my body. I pull it and I get rid of it.
Yeah.
And because there was a movie years ago, I don't know if it was Marsha Mason, I forgot who played it, where she played the healer. And every time she healed somebody, if it was somebody who was crippled, she would become crippled for several days. And that kind of reminds me of that. As healers, you don't keep that in your body at all. Otherwise, you wouldn't be an effective healer. And so that's something you don't want to
And
do.
that made me think of are you familiar with Neville Goddard? Like he talks about like the law of assumption, the law of
No, I
kind
don't
of the
know.
guy. Oh, it'd be a little hard to explain this point. Like it because I'd have to go. Well, he's of the idea that like God's like our higher self, like a higher consciousness, and he has kind of like a metaphorical way of looking at the Bible, like a mystical way. Like he believes like Christ is like a state of being, I guess, kind of like how you would look at the Buddha that we could all get to, and that kind of made me think of that, like because like that's what like Jesus did, like healing people and stuff. Like maybe that's like the higher. Maybe we have that like higher. That's like the higher ability,
Yeah,
whatever.
I've heard that not from this gentleman that you're mentioning, but I've heard that people say that there's like a God in all of us, and that we were created in God's image, so naturally we have God, the God essence in us. Perhaps that's true. I just, for me, I give respect to God, the higher power, and that's how I look at it. And I live in gratitude that I'm able to help people heal. And if it's a small part, I'm good with it. It's not about me when I'm working. It's always about the individual. And that's what's important. So when whether you're helping someone cross over or coming to terms with whatever uh, their terminal illness, or a loved one. For example, one of my friends had come to me and asked me, her father was dying, and she was asking me about, what I felt. And I said to her, my suggestion, because you don't want to scare people. And so my suggestion to her was, you may want to consider taking off this week and going to see him. And so she said, I have kids, I got obligations, I said, so I can't force somebody and I'm not going to scare someone. So I said, well, you may want to record your father, ask him questions so you have a recording of him so you can keep it for your children. Anyhow, P.S., he died that week and the guilt started happening. And I do hear that a lot. I heard that when my brother died. I heard that with, I've lost other loved ones. If only I knew, if only I knew. And the truth is, but you don't want to know,
Yeah.
and
Like we know on an intuitive level, you mean, or we know on a yeah.
yeah. I mean, my brother, I had two visions. They weren't like, this is my brother. It was two visions I had. They were a couple of years apart about my brother's death, but I was young. I was, about 17 months apart from my brother. And the first vision I had actually was when I was in night school. I was taking parapsychology at night when I had my first blown out vision. And I saw a gun go into a box. And then it shot, and the pictures went picture, 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 picture. So there was 100 pictures of the same image, and then it disappeared right in the middle of class. That was my very first full out, detailed vision. And then I received another one when I was coming back from college, and I was listening to the radio, and all of a sudden, the music stopped, and it said, "We interrupt this program to bring you an important message," and the message was, on this particular day at this particular time, this is going to happen. And I go, what? Anyhow, on that particular, it was a Thursday at 2 o'clock in the morning. My brother had committed suicide, and I shot up in bed. And we had been so connected on a spiritual level that I woke up and I was in sweat. I had a fever,
Hmm.
and it was so the infection was really bad. They didn't want to tell me until until the fever passed, that would happen. So I inquired about that. I said, well, how did that happen? It's because the two of you were so connected that your mind would not allow you to see all the details of what had happened. But there's so much. We could talk about metaphysics and spirits and ghosts and telepathy and psychometry and time slips and all these different things, because they're all around us. They're happening, boom, it happened again, boom, boom, boom. Each moment goes by, there's just so much going on, more than ever before. And my feeling is that besides the veil of the physical and the spiritual world having been crumbled, my feeling is that because we're moving so fast, things are starting to happen more and more and more and more. And those who are blind and still cannot see, then unfortunately they will not see, because that is, they believe the only thing that's in front of them is the only thing they can actually see. So you can't convince them. And spirit will show itself to you whether you believe or not. It's not like I have to believe in order to see it. It doesn't make a difference. Absolutely doesn't make a difference. If that spirit wants you to see it, you're going to see it. Will you believe it if you see it? That's another story.
And would you say science is starting to prove this in some ways, or is like some science trying to prove this? And I guess you kind of already answered my question. Like, what would you say to people who are skeptical? Well, you kind of said that, but
Well, I feel that being skeptical is healthy. Being cynical is not, because if you're cynical, you're shut off, to any change. And science is always changing. It never stays the same. They don't get it right. It's like, medicine, it's called practicing medicine. It's not exact medicine. Everything's always changing. Even in the metaphysical world, it's changing, changing, changing. Theories are changing. How did this happen? How did that happen? So, no one is writing it and putting it down in as if
yeah,
this is it.
yeah.
There's no change. No, there's change. Polarity is happening every second. Boom, another one's gone. Boom, it's gone. There's change. I mean, I remember years ago reading something that mustard can give you heartburn or something, or give you heart attack or something ridiculous. And I realized, and then all of a sudden they say, "Oh no, they don't do that. That doesn't happen." So, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I do have eyes and I can see, and I have ears that I can hear that things change constantly. So, I think those that are skeptical, it's healthy. Even the visions that I see sometimes is so fantastic. I go, oh, is that the message? I'll give you a funny one. I might have even told you this, a long time ago. I was working on a client and I was balancing her heart chakra. And out of her heart chakra comes this red velvet cupcake with SpongeBob smile on his face. And I tell her this, and she starts to laugh. And I said, "Why are you laughing?" She says, "Because I had red velvet wine with my lunch today." And there have been times early on when I was committing to the work that I would go, "Oh, I'm not going to tell him that. That's kind of weird."
Like a chakra, is that I've heard that word before. Is that like someone's emotional energy, or what is
There
it?
are energy wheels around the body. The main seven ones that people talk about are the crown chakra, the third eye, throat chakra, heart, the solar plexus, which is located right underneath the chest and above the navel, and the sacral is located below the navel, just above the pubis bone, and then below that is the root chakra. Those are the seven chakras. They're energy wheels, and when I look at someone's energetic body, I can look at that, see if their chakras are closed or if they're wonky. I can look at someone's energy and kind of go, you're having a lot of klutziness, right? You're tripping a lot on your own 2 feet, because you can see it. And it happens for many reasons. We have many layers of the auric field, but as far as chakras are concerned, those are the seven ones that people talk about. But there are many chakras. There's chakras in your palm of your hands, in the soles of your feet. And there's actually another chakra that's above your crown chakra that connects into spirit. And let's see what else. There's actually some more chakras there's two here above your ears. And sometimes I'll balance that. Depends if I'm seeing the person is a writer, creative, a musician. It depends on how I'm led and how I see, okay, this is off. Or if they're having they feel off balance here, that they're just not hearing, their muse, and the information comes through here, so it's something that is a real thing. If you go back into Indian culture, you'll see they talk about a lot about the chakras, but chakras are a real thing, and to throw off your whole entire energy field, your whole, your body, your energetic body. So, and it happens. It happens from people that, for example, you may be walking down the street and you see somebody get hit by a car, God forbid, and you go, and so that person who's doing that could be taking it right into their heart chakra to just throw the whole energy right off in this area. So there's many reasons, and then there's also the one who flips you off and they throw some poop on your energy field, and it'll slide off, but after time, your energy field gets a little residuey and needs to be cleaned. It needs to be, expanded. And one of the ways that you can clean your energy is through smudging. Native Americans, have been doing that for so many years. Sage, you can sage your aura.
Yeah.
I think sage is probably, if I remember correctly, sage cleans about 95% of the air. around you. You can always look at that up, Google it. There's cedar. I like that. I like Palo Santo, which is a piece of wood. I have it right here. I'll show you. Yeah, Palo Santo. It's a sacred piece of wood, and it's good for smudging. It lasts a long, long time. What I like about the Palo Santo is that I can light it, and then as it starts to smoke, I smudge my aura. And the great thing about it is I just put it in a bowl or a glass. For me, I have my little tiny cauldron that I use for smudging, and it'll go out. It's easy for me to travel with it too. So once it goes out, I can just put it in a piece of foil. So, that's another way to smudge. And another one is you can use essential oils or sea salt and just spray it over your aura field, and to
So it's just
dissipate.
like the scent or whatever, it just like changes the energy and the way you feel. Is that what it is? Or
Well, essential oils is one thing. I was just kind of keeping it simple with the cedar, the sage, the Palo Santo, and then if you wanted to do sea salt or essential oils, because essential oils, for example, lavender is very relaxing. It's very soothing. It helps with tension and stress. So people use they'll infuse lavender in a lot of their products, into the sprays to clean your auric field. It makes it lighter. It just dissipates. It's like window cleaner for your
yeah.
aura.
So 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 I mean this is a little on a little I guess it's kind of it's backtracking a bit to what we were saying before, but I just like what do you would you say are some I guess like misconceptions people have um I guess of like what ghosts or spirits or any of this is that
Well, misconceptions of ghosts. I think we covered that a little bit. It's sometimes they're just impressions. Sometimes they're just passing through. Sometimes they're trapped. Some of them are, well, like for example, poltergeist are restless spirits, and poltergeist comes from German language, and they're very can be very destructive. And I have a friend who is a psychic medium, and he walked into this one house, and they weren't even waiting to the evening. They were opening doors, they were throwing shit around the house. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say swear words, but they were throwing everything around the house, and those are poltergeists. They can be very, very destructive, and they're trapped.
yeah.
you
And
know
sometimes those are just energies, right? That's not necessarily always like a
Well,
person, right?
they're spirits. They're spirits. They're just, restless, trapped spirits. And, what could provoke them? I don't know. It could be sometimes you can bring an object into the house that someone else owned and has a lot of negative energy on it, or there's an attachment on it. There is a place, a museum of curiosity stuff where they have the doll of what's her name from the movie. Let's see what that movie's called. I forgot. She was ragged. It was based on Raggedy Ann. But they Annabelle, and so Annabelle was not a marionette. Annabelle was Andy, and Raggedy Ann and Andy, and they were just flat little dolls. And it's it's believed that Raggedy Ann doll is possessed, and a lot of bad things happen. So that doll is now put away in a glass museum, and so it doesn't get so it's trapped, so it can't get out and
Yeah.
wreak. There's a lot of these stories. It's if you're going to go out and you're antiquing, you try to make sure you get a
Yeah.
little bit of history on it, or smudge it, or whatever have you. Yeah, I mean, attachments can happen many different ways. I was working on a paranormal show with my dear friend Carl Petrie, and some of the clothes that were given to one of the actresses from the person, the homeowner, wound up to being possessed, and it had a ghost in it. She took it home and she had put it in her closet, and actually she put it in her roommate's closet. and from the other room, she sees the door open from the closet, and she hears a woman go, "Yoo-hoo,
Wow.
yoo-hoo." Listen, I wouldn't even stick around for the second yoo-hoo. She wound up getting rid of it, but it was just more things like that started happening. That from the attachment of spirit to these particular
Hmm.
clothes.
It seems like
So
sometimes they kind of do that for fun. Maybe that's like how they get their kicks, kind of like freaking people out sometimes.
I don't know. I don't know, but I would like not to have that near me.
Yeah.
I'm, like I said, I don't go to haunted houses. I'm not looking to chase ghosts. I'll leave that up to other people. I'm fascinated by some of the things that happen, but I'm not, gonna run, to, a house. So there's a haunted house in Florida that I was invited to a couple months ago. And they said, "Oh, you want to come with us?" And I go, "Well, is it a day trip or a night trip?" She goes, "No, it's in the evening." I go, "I'm not going." I'm not going. I don't need anything jumping on me. I like
Yeah.
peace in the house. Like peace in the house. You know.
So I
So,
guess, yeah. Is there any final thoughts or anything you'd like to say about everything we talked about?
well, I would say not to be afraid of any of this stuff. It's the percentage of those malevolent, creatures, or is it malevolent? I'm saying it wrong.
Malevolent, yeah.
Yeah, those entities are very far and few between.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, go chasing them. I would just, be respectful of them. Like anything else, it could be your loved one. It's a message from spirit, which is not a bad thing. No one's trying to, to harm you. For me, my experience is when I see the orbs, I go, "Oh, somebody wants to say hello," and that's
Yeah.
it. It's not like you're
Yeah.
gonna, you're gonna see all kinds of things wreaking havoc. You
Well, and
know,
probably a lot of them are neutral too. Like I have a feeling like a lot of spirits or energies are kind of neutral, not necessarily like good or bad in a official sense. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, most of them are not looking to harm anybody. It's
yeah,
not. I don't feel that way. I feel very blessed that I'm able to see, the loved ones that I do see, whether I see them in twilight or I see them in person. It's, I've seen them in so many different situations that for me, it's as long as you come from the highest vibration, I think that it's all good. And, they live among us. They've been around here for hundreds of thousands of years, and so maybe just keep your eyes open and observe, as opposed to being afraid of something that you're not understanding. You know.
yeah. But be open to the unknown. Like we fear the
Yeah,
unknown, but the unknown's not always bad.
every day is the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a lot of respect for spirit, and I'm very grateful for spirit for the amazing things that I've seen, and I see a lot more wonderful things than anything else. So
All right, and I guess to the listeners, and if you have any thoughts on this conversation, anything you've taken away from it, or any your own experiences with spirits or any of this, be sure to let me know on. Let's talk about the deep stuff on social media, or if you're on YouTube, you can say in the comments section.
mhm.
And that's about it for this episode. Thank you again for coming on.
Sure, if they want to reach me, they can reach me at PamelaSKramer.com.
All right, sounds good.
Thank
And
you so much. I appreciate being on here.
yeah, no problem. And that's about it for this episode. You can follow further episodes on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll catch you on the next one.